Good morning, friends. Today we are going to learn about the phrase and the clause. What is a phrase? A phrase is a group of words which gives some meaning but not complete meaning. There are two things that you have to remember about this definition. One is a group of words. A phrase must be a group of words. And then you must also remember some meaning but not a complete meaning. A phrase gives some meaning, but the meaning it gives is not complete. Therefore, you remember a phrase is a group of words which gives some meaning but not complete meaning. Another thing which you have to remember about the phrase is it has no subject and verb. I have given 3 examples here. Look at them. With me, on the table, near my house. These 3 examples are a group of words, but they do not give complete meaning. They also have no subject and verb. Therefore, we call them a phrase. Now that you have understood what a phrase is, let us move on to the clause. A clause is different from a phrase. The main difference between the phrase and the clause is the phrase does not have a subject and a verb, but a clause has a subject and a verb. Look at the 2 examples given below. With his relatives. We call this a phrase because it does not have a subject and a verb. Now look at the second example. They won the match. Here you have a subject they and a verb won. Since there is a subject and a verb, we call it a clause. Now let us look at the phrase and the clause once again. A phrase is a group of words. A clause is also a group of words. The phrase has no subject or verb, but the clause has a subject and a verb. There are 2 kinds of clauses, the main clause and the subordinate clause. Let us get into these 2. I told you that a clause has a subject and a verb. But a clause may give complete meaning or it may not give complete meaning. If a clause gives complete meaning, we call it a main clause. If a clause does not give complete meaning, we call it a subordinate clause. But you have to remember, in a clause there is a subject and a verb. You have a subject and a verb in the main clause. You have a subject and a verb in the subordinate clause also. While the main clause gives complete meaning, the subordinate clause does not give complete meaning. Now, look at the example given here. He scolded me and I complained to the principal. There are 2 parts in this sentence. The first part is he scolded me, and the second part is I complained to the principal. These two parts are connected by the conjunction and. Now, let us deal with the first part of the sentence, he scolded me. Now, in this class, there is a subject he and there is a verb scolded. Now, the part he scolded me gives complete meaning. It has a subject and a verb. Therefore, it is called a main clause. Now, look at the second part of the sentence, I complained to the principal. Here, you have a subject I and a verb complained. I complained to the principal gives complete meaning. Therefore, this is also called a main clause. Now, in this sentence, you have two main clauses. Look at the next example. Since he was not well, he did not come to school. Here also, you have two parts. The first part is since he was not well. Here you have a subject he and a verb was not. In the second part of the sentence, he is the subject, did not come is the verb. Let us look at the second part of the sentence. He did not come to school. You have a subject he and a verb did not come. This part of the sentence, he did not come to school, gives complete meaning. Therefore, we call it a main clause. Now, what about the first part of the sentence? Since he was not well. In this sentence also, there is a subject he and a verb was not. But it does not give complete meaning. Therefore, we call it a subordinate clause. Now, what is the similarity between the main clause and the subordinate clause? In the main clause, you have a subject and a verb. In the subordinate clause also, you have a subject and a verb. But what is the difference between the main clause and the subordinate clause? The main clause gives complete meaning, but the subordinate clause does not give complete meaning. Now, in this example, you find that the subordinate clause is at the beginning of the sentence and it is followed by the main clause. Let us move on to the next example. I like Prabhu because he is honest. Here also you have two parts. The first part is I like Prabhu. The second part is because he is honest. In the first part of the sentence, I like Prabhu, you have a subject I and a verb like. I like Prabhu gives complete meaning, therefore we call it a main clause. In the second part of the sentence, the subject is he and the verb is. This part of the sentence does not give complete meaning, therefore we call it a subordinate clause. Now, in this example, you find the main clause at the beginning and it is followed by the subordinate clause. Now let us look at the similarity between the main class and the subordinate clause. Remember what I told you earlier? The main class has a subject and a verb. The subordinate clause also has a subject and a verb. What is the difference between these two clauses? The main clause gives complete meaning, but the subordinate clause does not give complete meaning. I hope you have understood now what a phrase is, what a clause is, and then what is a main clause, and then what is a subordinate clause. What is the difference between the main clause and the subordinate clause? Thank you.